Welcome to Fire and Life Talk, transforming a world one heart at a time. Well, hello and welcome to another episode of Fire and Life Talk. I am your host, Pastor Gary, and as always, I am thrilled to be here. Today is going to be an awesome show. Today we have Officer Jason Kim is going to come on and talk about his experience from childhood to the present, and it is going to be so uplifting and so encouraging that we're so excited about it. But here at Fire and Life, if you don't know, if you're the first-time viewer, we're here to encourage, to empower, to equip you to live a better life. If you want to know more about our ministry, you can go to fireandlife.org. That's fireandlife.org. And if you have any questions or comments during the broadcast, you can go ahead and submit them from whatever platform you're working on. So I tell you what, we're looking forward to getting to this show. But before we do that, I got to bring on my friend, my wife. And according to Proverbs 18:22, he that finds a wife findeth a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord. So let's welcome my good thing.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited for this show today.
Yes, and we've gone through some trouble getting Officer Kim on this show, so we're excited. And we know a lot of times when there's much resistance, there's going to be much joy and adulation and all that good stuff. So today we'll be talking about his experiences coming to America as an immigrant and actually living out his dream.
Yes.
So we're excited. I tell you what, let's without further ado, let's just go ahead and bring him onto the platform. And we want to welcome Officer Jason Kim from the Fort Worth Police Department. How you doing, Officer Kim?
Hello. Oh, good. How are you?
Doing great. Thank you for taking time out from saving the city and coming on to the show. We appreciate it.
It's my pleasure. Thanks for having me here to allow me to share my experience through my journey. So,
yeah, I guess we've officially met coming up on a year ago. And I know when we first met, I shared that I had the opportunity to go to South Korea and how much I fell in love with the culture, with the people, with just the whole experience. And I think since then we started developing a relationship. So I'm glad we've come to this point where you're able to come on to the show. But I tell you what, when we think of immigrants here as in America, there's such a wide array of thoughts and concepts. So we was elated again for you to come on and tell your experience. But before we actually get into the question, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. So hello, everyone. My name is Jason Kim. I'm currently serving as a lieutenant of the Fort Worth Police Department, overseeing the operation of a jail. So I have been with the department for about 17 years. Majority of those times I've spent in patrol and in investigative work. But through the journey, I came to this point where now I get to share my experience to the youth and younger generations to be able to assist it, just even if it's just a little, to assist them growing up and see and provide them a little extra pathway to develop themselves. And if I can contribute anything, that'll be my honor. And really appreciate you having me here today. And I'm really looking forward to sharing my experience.
Yeah, great. Well, I tell you what, tell us a little bit about growing up as a Korean immigrant in the United States.
So it's a very different. So how I came to just to share my life story on how our family ended up in Texas and or just specifically in Dallas, Texas, is that when I was just right after I was born, my parents, they applied for a green card. And those of you that have gone through the immigration system, it usually took about 15 to 20 years just to get a response from immigration office. So by the time that I reached about 14 years of age, South Korea experienced a big stock market crash. It's called it's formally called IMF time age in South Korea.
Okay.
So my dad used to work for a big motor company called Daewoo. I think they ended up going bankruptcy, and they got bought by GM. But my dad, he used to work in a leadership position for the company. However, during those big financial crisis timing, my dad thought, you know what, maybe something's telling me that it's just not a path, and he for other opportunity. And thankfully, right at that time, we got a response from the immigration offices that if we're still interested, we can come into the country with a green card. So I had that pleasure going on because a lot of the people don't even get afforded with those opportunities.
Yeah.
Hopefully, my parents proactively thought about the pathways, and it kind of really worked out for all of us. So, but now when I was 14, I really didn't know what was going on, right? We were going to Texas, and that's where my uncle used to live as well too. So as a young age kid, and I just thought that, America is going to be a really great place, because back those times, it still kind of is now, but if you think of an America, everybody think of an American dream, right? And
yeah.
America's got all the fancy buildings and everything. That's the thought that I had in my mind when I was young. So I remember I was really excited but nervous at the same time. I had more of a positive attitude about the change than negative. So as soon as my family determined that we're going to come into Texas, and we flew in, I really remember the first day in Texas. It was during the summertime. It was June.
It's hot.
It was hot, definitely hot, and the smell of that grass, that morning moisture that you smell in the morning, right?
Wow.
That still stays with me, because I could definitely still smell the same scent in the morning when I get step out of the office. But I didn't even really get to smell that when I was in Korea, because Korea is a very, very busy city, right? There's no it's skyscrapers everywhere. Yeah. There's a lot of people in a small compacted area. So we used to not have grasses, some nature, trees and nature pieces throughout the city, but I come to Texas and it's everywhere. Trees, grass, very peaceful. The air is so much fresher. It was just really different. And I remember the scent that I was telling you about. I very much remember, and I still remember every time I step out of my house to do, just in the morning, and I smell it, it brings me back to those times. So just to go forward, after that, absolutely, when I came to the country, I did not speak any English at all, right?
Oh, wow.
That was that was probably
age 14, you said?
I was 14, and I was about 7th grader. And I remember that I was supposed to go into the 8th grader. My parents decided to downgrade me just a year down so that it gives me a little extra time to learn an English language. And I was in ESL program as well too.
Right.
Yeah.
So I remember I struggled through that language a lot, because it's a very new environment. Everything was very new environment. Even the school system as a whole is a very different environment. But one thing that I really remember the most is that I had a lot of friends that came from Korea, and we happened to be in the same ESL program. So it's kind of like it's a good thing, and it kind of not so good thing, because you know how when you're experiencing something new, it's better that you immerse yourself in and grew up in that culture rather than somebody actually guiding it. It's sink or swim type of thing. But if you're able to swim, you become expert at it pretty fast, or even faster.
Right.
Unfortunately, I didn't have that pleasure, because, like I said, a lot of my friends they were in the same situation that I was in. I remember going to the ESL class with some of the Korean friends, And my parents thought that, you know what, that may not be so good for your education. So we decided to move from, there was Capel, and then we had decided to move to Plano, where there's a less of a Korean population there back then.
Okay.
So when we moved to Plano, that's where I grew up and on till college times. And I did not have a lot of Korean friends. Instead, I hung out with a lot of friends that were born here in the state. And a lot of them are, Asian descent, Chinese, Vietnamese. But thankfully, I think that was a really good decision that my parents made, because that's how I was able to get where I am as far as English proficiency wise. So going forward, I graduated from Plano Senior High School, and I went to the UNT during the college time. And during that transition, I was kind of struggling in a way that, what do I want to do? I didn't have anything. I really wanted to do computer science. However, my dream kind of took a really wide turn when I had taken the computer science class in high school. And, by enjoying playing with computers and doing the programming is two different things. And I learned it kind of the hard way in high school. So I decided to think further about what I want to do as a career, right? And somehow the police profession just came to me. It just came to me, and it sounded very interesting, because I always wanted to, when I was a kid, my parents told me this, that I really wanted to become a fireman when I was a little kid, really little baby. But somehow, as soon as I got into the college, becoming a police officer was my thing. And I had a really pinpoint focus on what I want to do. And here I am. I majored in criminal justice from UNT, graduated from there. As soon as I graduated, towards the end of a bachelor's program, I applied to different agencies, and thankfully Fort Worth PD called me, and I was able to land a career job here with Fort Worth, and I've been here since then. Wow, that's almost 17 years ago.
Yeah. That's great. But let's go back. This is one thing, a few things that you mentioned that we can relate to, but ours is like on a travel, short term, a month or 2 months at the longest, it's culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I said, you didn't speak any English. I'm like, whoa, so sometimes we don't realize, and we don't take time to think about that process. People come from other countries. Hey, you here, there's some expectations that if you come here, you should know the language, or, some things like that. But that's just not reality all the time.
Right.
And I know when we travel, we try to do as much research as we can. As the culture, the food, the time difference, the travel, things you can take and can't take. So embarking on a whole movement. And then, 14, your body's going through all these things.
Oh, yeah. I was going through bad puberties and everything. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's quite a challenge. And I guess it made it a little bit easier that you had some Korean and Asian culture that can kind of understand what you're going through, kind of watch over that. I know, and I don't know if Gina had a question in this segment, but she used to teach. And, and the school she taught at, had, I don't know how many different nationalities, but it was preschool, and some of the kids didn't speak English. But I'll let her ask you about that. Yeah.
Well, yes, and I had to. Well, it was actually pre-K. So I had to label everything. I had to do everything, but it was just a joy. After 2 weeks or 3 weeks, they catch it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a beautiful thing to me, because I would all of a sudden hear them speaking English, and I was like, oh, wow, they got there, because it's a challenge.
Yeah,
it is a challenge, but I love that, they came to what they needed to do to be successful.
Oh, the kids can pick up the language a lot faster than how I did.
Oh, yes.
It's a small stats, but they pick it up real fast. And I remember it took me probably about 2 or 3 years just to be able to understand what people are telling me and saying it to me.
Yeah.
But kids, they can pick it up in a couple of weeks fast. I mean, I have a kid that I have a small children I have with me, and then we always speak Korean in our home, because I was actually I actually did that on purpose, because I want them to become bilingual just like I was. just to be able to open more doors for them when they grow up.
Yeah.
But when my kids went to school, they didn't speak English at all, but their transition into that American schools and languages was so much easier than how I did, because I never heard them struggling. They just, by them playing with their friends and teachers, they just picked it up, cultures and language just like that. Snap a finger, they just start picking it up. And I wish, now to come to think of it, I wish I was that young when I came to the country. Had I known that, I would have definitely ended up being here. But of course, nobody really knows what the future holds, right?
Yeah.
But now to come to think of it, now that you mentioned that you actually had a pre-K students that are come from other countries and different languages, I can totally relate to you. They pick it up, it's like nothing.
It's like nothing.
Was the language barrier your biggest challenge, cultural challenge, when you moved to
that? I want to say language and the making friends. Those are the two biggest challenges, and mainly because it's
Texas has its own culture anyway within America, so
absolutely. But Korea is it's not just the differences in cultures, but language has something to do with it, because I cannot communicate with the friends that I'm going to school with, and I look very different. And back then, having an Asian student in a school was not really a common thing. I remember just in ESL class, we've had 2 or 3 Korean students that I was able to relate to, but outside of the ESL program, there just wasn't that many Asian students in our school back then. So making friends was probably the second biggest thing, but that came with the challenges that I had with the language barrier.
And just the school structure was different, wasn't it? Because in Korea, you spend a lot more time in school than you do at home, right?
Yes. So let me just tell you about the school system in South Korea. So back then, it still kind of is now. So there is a big competitions from even the students in their school, because, like I have mentioned, there's just so many people in a small, very dense area, and education competition is very strong up there. They pretty much get tested every year whenever they finish high schools and everything, and they want to go to college. Here you can take SAT. They have about 4 or 5 opportunities to take the SAT, and you pick the best score before you're submitting your application to get into the college. As opposed to that, in Korea, you have to do it once a year, and you have to put all in for that 1 year, the once a year test. If you don't do really well on the test and you're kind of get behind on competitions, you have to wait another year to take that class or take that test.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So the educations and outside academy or further education after school is very strong in Korea. And I did experience that when I was a kid. But here, we don't have any of that. There's just so many opportunities. And in Korea, it's the system they have in place is that you stay in classroom. Teachers go to the front. Teachers put something on the board, the chalkboard, and we just have to learn it ourselves. There's no interactions, no conversation. You just have to listen to what teacher's telling you, and you just have to obey or understand what they're saying to you. Otherwise, you're going to get pushed behind. As opposed to that, here is more conversational, more. I remember it was very interactive. So that was very different. The competition less of the competitions, and the way I learned through school was very different because it was very interactive as opposed to how it was in Korea.
Wow.
Interesting.
That's interesting. Well, what role did your upbringing play in the decision for you to pursue your career in law enforcement?
Because I really don't know. A lot of people tell you that, hey, it was just a calling. That kind of, I can definitely relate to that, because nobody in our family has any type of police experience. I don't know anybody who's a police officer. Now, one thing, my parents used to own a donut shop, so we did have a lot of police customers. But as far as a personal interaction,
I don't know. You're going to get in trouble for that one.
It is okay. A lot of the police officers actually they're aware of this stereotype. But those are the only times
a good one.
those are the only times that I got to see. But I just absolutely have no personal more personal connections with anybody in law enforcement. I don't know how it came to me. I really don't. Now that I come to think of it, it was really a calling, and I had a very pinpoint goal that I wanted to go to, and I didn't look back. I didn't look elsewhere. I just looked at the law enforcement careers, and I really just had that goal in mind, and I just went with it.
Wow.
And
That's amazing.
thankfully God put me in a position where, because I still say that even though this career is very challenging, there's a lot of testing on you.
Yeah.
However, at least what I know for a fact is that I came in the profession that I wanted to. I know a lot of friends and families that they majored in different fields. They majored in what they are interested in. However, when they pursue their career, they have to go to the different type of career because they were not able to achieve the goal of having a job that they desire.
I got you.
Yeah.
As opposed to that, I'm really thankful that how it came to me, because at least I was able to pursue the dream job that I was going for.
Yeah.
And for that, I'm really thankful for what happened, of how it ended up happening, and I'm still here. So
that's good. That's so good.
That's awesome, and that's one thing that we encourage the youth that we have the opportunity to speak to, the young adults. Hey, find something that you're passionate about.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Find something that you love, and I think they say when you do that, you never work another day in your life.
Absolutely. When you enjoy what you're doing, then it's not just a work. It's just it becomes your life. Now, I'm not going to encourage the younger generations to put their lives into work, because they still have to take care of themselves, have to enjoy what they do, and have hobbies and stuff like that. And that's how it was to me. When I was a baby cop, my life is all about going to work in a way that I feel really bad about neglecting my family to pursue advancement in my career. And I'm now getting to that age to where you have to take care of yourself. You want to do what you enjoy. You want to pursue a career that you dreamed of. However, in the end, your utmost priority is your family and yourself and your health.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
that's
I'm
good.
at the point that I was started to kind of shift in my priorities from work towards my families. And
I think when we get to a certain age, or sometimes certain experiences we have, we realize in life we have to have a balance.
Absolutely. Work and life balance it's almost crucial that you have, because otherwise you're going to get consumed by either a career or or the stress that you're facing. And you don't want to be consumed by anything, because your most priorities are your families and your kids and the people that are around you. So I've been trying to encourage my friends and younger generations that have a hobby, have a hobby that you enjoy the most outside what they want to do for their career. Having a job, having a career is different than having a different hobbies to enjoy yourself. So you just have to make that fine balance. I was terrible at it. I really admit that I was very terrible at it, but now I started to recognizing how bad of a decision that was. And I've been trying to advocate everyone, those younger generation police departments, that this is still, you want to put 100% in the work. However, when it's time to plug off and enjoy your life, you got to do that after work.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to explore that some more in our second segment. And with that, we're going to take a short commercial break. We're here with police officer Jason Kim. He's talking about his experience of coming to America and just the culture shock and everything about it. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper. Again, we thank you for tuning in to Fire and Life Talk. We appreciate you. But before I go, I want to encourage you to like, to share, to continue to comment and subscribe. We'll be right back.
What's happening, y'all? I don't know if you've ever seen a walking tree. This is actually called a walking tree because these are the roots that come from up high, not down in the ground. They grow into the ground. They're both on both sides of the tree. And if the tree wants to move this way, the roots in the back die, and then it grows out more roots in the front. And the only way the tree can move forward is if the roots in the back die and it grows more roots in the front, and then the tree moves in that direction. The only way you're going to be able to walk with God and move forward with God is if your roots behind you die. Your old relationships, your old connections, your old views of yourself, they have to die in order for you to move forward. And then you grow new roots in the direction that God wants you to go. The Bible says if anyone's in Christ, the old is gone and the new has come. So let go of these old roots, let go of these old ideas, these old relationships, these old perceptions, and start moving forward and reaching out forward to apprehend what Christ has apprehended for you, to become the person He created you to be.
Welcome back to Fire and Life Talk. We are here again with Officer Jason Kim with the Fort Worth Police Department, and we are just having a great time. I'm really learning a lot and enjoying it, and I know you, other viewers, are. No matter where you're at in the world, there's always obstacles and transitions and change and all these things. Some much bigger than others. So, hey, we're in segment 2. We're going to talk more about Officer Kim's journey. And I know, Gina, you had a question.
Yes, I do. Did you encounter any discouragement or obstacles from others regarding your career choice?
There were a lot of obstacles. Yes, I did. And let me tell you, it's a really sad reality of the world that we're living in, but it's sometimes a lot of people outside of the field look at us like we're different, right? And that comes with my race and language as well too. Every time I interact with people that I interact with people outside, and a lot of times we have a personal interaction with people outside in a positive environment or sometimes in a negative environment. However, I try to look at things where everybody's the same. We're all human. We're all good
Right.
people. But some people will look at us in a different because we're in the uniform, and just because of the language and accent that I have, a lot of people think that I'm mentally challenged just due to the accent, or just the racial differences that I have with the different people is that they don't know what they're talking about. He never even lived the country. Now, how is he going to know or understand my problem? That type of thing.
Right.
So those are the challenges that I had in my career. I can say that it was not like a discriminatory or anything extreme in a way, but I can definitely sense that when I was working. And heck, I've been called by different names and profanities just because of who I am, not because of what I did. So yeah, those are the challenges, but those are the things that a lot of the police officers experience just because they put the uniform on. But in the end, we're all same people. We all have families, and we're human just like you are.
Yeah.
Right.
But they think that we become a robot when we put a uniform on, and that's
Right.
not it. We have our feelings too, But those are probably the biggest challenge that I had as an officer, because of the people who look at us different just by our appearances.
Yeah. Officer Kim, I'm glad you mentioned that. And that's really being transparent, because sometimes, with the organization that we're in and we work side by side with the police, I'm viewed a certain way now. And I'm like, hey. I remember when I first started, we have our uniforms now, but I remember when I first started, I was like in my civilian clothes, and the officer needed some gas. So I popped out and said, hey, I'm gonna run in, use the restroom and get some things. And I'm getting out of the front seat of the car in civilian clothes, and I run in, I didn't have a clue. I was still green. I'm coming back and some people hollering at me, either he a snitch or he's undercover. I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, because you got a little taste of that as well.
Oh yeah, I've been called some names and everything too, and even in my identity, in my wear, I'm making it more that I'm a pastor, But hey, guilty by association.
Yeah.
But I tell you, the good experiences have been way overweigh the challenging experiences. But you know, and also too, I have to say this: you do it every day.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't do it every day. You do it every day. And the one thing I explain from a spiritual point of view, that the police are ordained to enforce the law and keep the peace. You're like the gatekeepers of the city, and I would say the very ones that's hurling those sometimes physical things and and verbal assaults. If they need to the police, they expect, when they call 911, they expect you to come in and take care of them. But also too, I guess we're going this way. Two expectations on police officers are sometimes unreal. They expect police officers to be, and it's not condemning anyone, because you're in a state of shock or whatever state you're in. Because when that call comes in, they're not calling to ask us to come and have milk and cookies. There's traumatic things that are happening.
Right.
So, but sometimes the expectations of the public is the police to be a counselor, to be just everything. But the bottom line is just to enforce the law and within that law. And I never thought I would be doing it, because I was in LA during the crack epidemic, and I've sat on the curb, I've been profiled, I've been all that. So it's part of my life. I share all the time, man. I never thought I would do this, but I think it's one of the greatest things that I've experienced in our ministry and in my life. And I see that you're human. You want to go home at night. You have families, and so there's other officers that I've worked with that have come from different countries as well. And so I hear you. I can just imagine you working on a particular side of town in Fort Worth.
East side or south side. Yeah.
I didn't want to say what side, but
yeah, I know.
Yeah. So with all that said, thank you for your service.
Amen.
Thank you. Because what really fuels us to do what we do is that we can experience a lot of negativities, but if we get a positive reaction from people, that evens out. I mean, that's something that we can definitely use, and it's definitely helping the officers. So I want to encourage everybody that if you have a chance to thank a police officer for what they do, please do it. Even if it's just a small gesture of shaking hands and give them a smile, because they need those type of support. Even if it's just those small staffs can take those small gesture will allow police officers to take a leap of benefit of soothing down their mental illness, that at least they know that, hey, there's other people out there that support what you do. Do not listen to all the negatives that you see on the TVs and what people are telling you. Just by you showing that support and appreciation, officers will have that in the back of their head whenever they encounter with the negativities out there, saying, you know what? They're not the representative of society as a whole. There's a lot of good other people out there.
Right.
That's what really hold police officers to put themselves together and still do what they do, because in the end, they know that majority of society do support for what you do. So if you have a chance and opportunity to thank a police officer, please do.
Yeah, I agree. And again, my experiences, I'm not out there every day, but my experiences is the public will buy you lunch, or, just say hello, thank you, we appreciate it. If we're sitting for a while, actually, if you want some cold water, anything, like you said, those little gestures. And nowadays, the society that we sit in, we don't know who's walking up to the car.
Right.
We don't know the intention. So, do that. I encourage the public to do that. And again, we can't lump the public all in one as well, but it's case by case.
Yes.
Yeah, it's case by case. So I appreciate it. Being entrenched in it, I have a big understanding, and I'm not afraid to say, hey, each and every officer is is as an individual. There's been different trainings from different cities, different departments, different backgrounds. All those components make that officer. Or if let's take the officer out of it, it makes us as an individual, our worldview, our church view, all of that. So, so we just take that time to tell you thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your support.
Yeah, we appreciate it. And tell us about some of your mentors, growing up. What was your greatest influences?
Now I've come to think of it, I have, I don't think I was in a lucky where I had several mentors that I could reach out to because, I was a minority. A lot of the folks that I followed, they all look different. They all have a different experience than I did. So there's less people out there that I can relate myself into. But one of the big mentor that I had during my career, thankfully at least I had one, is that I have a good friend who's been with the Florida Police Department for about now 29 years. Okay. He grew up the personality that I grew up that I am, and the experience that I had as an immigrant, I can totally relate all that experience to this friend that I'm telling you about.
Okay.
So he was my mentor. He started a career a lot earlier than I did, but it literally looks like I'm taking the steps that he had taken 10 years ago. And he was a person that I was able to reach out to. And everybody needs a mentor like that person, at least one person.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because there's a saying in our cultures that if you have one or two friends that you can open yourself to, just one or two good friends that you can be really honest about yourself to, then you've been succeeding in your life. There's a whole saying that. Amen. And I can thankfully say I have at least one person I can trust.
Amen.
And so I feel really blessed about this. So yes, I did have a one person, but more mentors that you have is better.
Yes.
But just having a one person at minimum is something that I definitely needed and I had. So I'm really thankful for that.
Well, how does your family react to your decision in law enforcement?
It was not negative, but they were very fearful because the only times they listen and see what police officers do through the TV. Yeah. So they think that which we did, sometimes we go out on the street in the uniform and you encounter some calls where potentially be dangerous, but majority of times that doesn't happen very often. It just happens once in a while, and hopefully it doesn't happen to anybody in the whole career, where they have to pull the trigger on the gun. Yeah. But from my parents' perspective, they think that we're getting into a war zone. That's something that we deal with every day, right? Getting the shootouts, which is not realistic, but that's how my family thought that I was doing. So they were supportive that I was going for a profession that's honorable. However, they kind of not opposing, but they were really fear that I was actually going into the profession because of the safety wise. So if I don't answer my phone call when they call me, they immediately start freaking out. But those are the only reactions that I have from my family. But they were very supportive that what I'm doing here because they know it's an honorable professions, and it's a very proud moment that a minority officer, a minority person joining into a government position is very proud, and especially I didn't grow up here. I'm an immigrant. I'm just I speak different language, but my parents were really proud of that because they knew the challenges that I've come through, and they knew what I wanted to do, and they saw that I could potentially be a good police officer, and here I am. I'm still here, and I'm glad that my parents saw it and everything. So they're very thankful and supportive, but at the same time, they still worry. I mean, they still treat me like I'm baby to them. Yeah. So it's something that I can really help, but those are the things that my family reacted when I was going for this law enforcement profession because of the fear of the safety.
Yeah, I know that's a big one. That's a big one. I know I've rolled out with some officers, their family doesn't go to bed until they come home and things of that nature. So it's kind of tough. But here I am, I'm thinking where I grew up at, I grew up with Italians, I grew up with Polish, Middle Eastern, and Puerto Rican. And everyone had their own community. Mm-hmm. And you can walk a few blocks and be in another community, and you had to carry yourself a certain way. You had to respect that community. And so I kind of wanted to circle back a little bit with you working on the particular sides of town that you did. Give us a couple stories, if you can remember, of your encounters with the public when they see that you didn't look like them.
It's hard, I mean, it's because people tend to like and trust people that they're very familiar to them, right? So me being a police officer coming out in the side of town where predominantly it's African American populations or Hispanic populations. In the end, I'm a police officer in uniform. That's already challenging as it is. Putting the uniform on, but by looking different than how they look like racially or in being in uniform, it's definitely challenges. And the majority of distrust that come from them is how do you know about our culture? How do you know the environment that I grew up in? You don't know anything. So every time I give them some type of advice or give them some type of order, they always question. You don't know nothing about this. You don't know. You never grew up in our hood, so they don't trust you and all that stuff. So I definitely see that. I definitely saw that in my career. Absolutely. Because I've served in Hispanic predominant communities and I've served in Caucasian predominant communities, and I served in African American predominant communities. And I did experience it on every one of them. Even the Caucasians or white American communities, I'm still a different person. So I did get those challenges throughout my career.
Well, with that said, you had a lot of experience. First of all, being able to get your job done. The reason why you was there. But I guess what I'm getting at is just society, period. And now they say that we live in a global community and we have so many different nationalities. Like, okay, so some people say because of our travels, we're evangelists and, you got to go outside the country to evangelize. Man, right here in America, right here in Texas.
We got everything here.
You don't even need a passport. You just go a city over and evangelize. I know one of my things is everyone in the world has to eat. And that's my thing where I connect with people is trying different foods and different cultures. But a lot of time we're afraid to. But as you were talking, I said, man, you had a very unique position. From my perspective, like being able to enter in these communities, I guess sometimes, every call was here. I'm just going to say it because this is the term I use. What I found is that forward police babysit the city. I'm just going to say it because you go on a lot of calls, man. It's like babysitting, but you can go on there. You can go to your domestic calls and everything, and it's different. But you came from a very unique perspective, in first having how did you do that without losing your identity?
What do you mean, like in a professional identity, or are you talking about just a personal identity as far as
kind of your personal identity? Because in a sense, and correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of had to be certain things to certain people, to get them to trust you, to a certain degree.
Yeah, but see, my way of thoughts is that I don't try to become or act or behave like they do. Mm-hmm. I'm just who I am. And if people see that I talk or behave consistently throughout different people, then they will know that I'm just being a Jason Kim, not just an Asian American police officer, Jason Kim, right?
Yeah.
So I try to put that respect and consistency throughout every interactions that I have with different people. Now, every interaction will be different because we're dealing with different people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
However, every time I go to those calls and interact with different people, I'm just gonna have to do who I am. I'm just gonna behave and act, and as you can tell, I'm a very smiling person. So this is how I talk to people, whether I put the uniform on talking to people or not. I always try to put out a smile on my face because this kind of soothe the tensions down a little bit.
Yeah.
So I don't really act differently just by differences in communities that I serve. I'm just have to deal with them who I am, but I'm doing it consistently with people that I'm dealing with.
That's good.
That's good.
Yeah, that's the way I do it, and it's actually worked out for me too.
Yeah, Kamsahamnida. But that
was pretty good.
Yeah, but so that's really important because let's take the police officer, take the uniform out of it. this is how we should interact
Yes.
with each other as a society. That's where I was going with this. You know, regardless of your profession, you know, we're all human.
Right.
We all, for the most part, like I said, let's get down to our basic needs. We all have to eat. We all need water. And if we as a society can come together beyond that, man, this will be a greater place. We can make our communities a greater place to live. But again, there's so many different components and experiences with that.
What I can say is that society-wise, we're doing a lot better than how it used to be 10, 15 years ago.
Okay.
I'm seeing it from a minority perspective, is that now people out there are more really understanding about differences in cultures.
Yeah.
They don't look at people in different way, inferior or superior. I think the perspective that Americans as a whole is seeing is that, hey, we're all different people, but we're still people. We're still the same people.
Yeah.
So speaking of that, how it was back in 10 or 20, 15, 20 years ago, it's definitely different than how it is today, and in a positive way. I'm definitely seeing that from a minority perspective as well, too. And I'm pretty sure they all are seeing that as well.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I think technology has a lot to do with that. We're able to. I remember when the internet was really getting big, and I used to have this BlackBerry, and I'm always searching on it. And I had aunt. You remember that, Gene? I had that.
I do remember those BlackBerries. Yeah, I do.
And my aunt was saying, "Why are you on that thing all the time?" And I said, "Because you can go anywhere in the world." I said, "I can go to a library in Egypt and read a book." Yeah. She said, "Are you smoking? How are you going to go to a library in Egypt?"
Well, yeah, definitely. The technology has really advanced where we can. It has advanced so much. You know, I still remember library's time, but now that you get to interact with different people just through the handheld device, that's a I know there's a negative outcome by relying on too much on electronics. But I think there's a positive side of that as well, too.
Yes,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. We see it with the show. I mean, just the things that's out of our hands. Mm-hmm. We see the power and the reach of, electronic community. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Sometimes it's just really mind blowing. Mm-hmm. And, you can bring a whole nother culture and experiences like right into your hand on your phone. Right. Yeah, I think that's so exciting. And then when we travel, we see the different types of technology. And I tell you what, we're going to take a quick commercial break, but I know you just came back from South Korea. So I'm really interested if you would share some of the differences from when you left and when you went back, those time periods. All right. So again, this is Fire and Life Talk. We just thank you again for tuning in. We're coming right back. I made it sound like we was leaving, but we're coming right back. Don't forget to share, to like, subscribe, and we'll be right back. We are back with Jason Kim, from the Fort Worth Police Department, and also on the platform is my good thing, my wife, my friend, Pastor Gina. In the last segment, we talked about some really serious things about society and things of that nature. And right before we went on the break, I was asking Officer Kim, he just came back from Korea. So, Officer Kim, what were some of the differences? Like, how did your family receive you coming back? Did they say, "Hey, you changed"? And what changes did you see? And technology, share that with us.
Yeah, so that was my first year in 14 years.
Wow.
So it's been a while. It's been some time, right?
Yeah.
So, but the crazy thing is that I had an opportunity to see my families in Korea that I haven't met for the last 14 years.
Wow.
But just because we're family, nothing different. I came in and talking to them. I just gave them a call. Hey, I'm here in the country. You want to have a dinner? Yeah. What time are you? Just start. It was very, very seamless interactions.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Just if you have a friend that you haven't spoken in 14 years, and I mean,
yeah,
the person will kind of react differently, right? But not with the family members, because they know that you're out there and they're just glad to see you. So
yeah.
I had a really good time in July when I went back to Korea. My parents still live there, so I was able to see my parents. It was a very good. I guess you can say it. It was a really good vacation for me and for my mental health as well too. So that because I was able to get to see people that I haven't met for such a long time, and I still had that link with the family members. So I enjoyed it. It was a very good experience.
That's good. That's always great to hear. Yeah. Let's kind of switch a little bit, because you shared your whole experience about first finding out you're coming to America, then going through the culture shock, all of those things, and now you've gone back to Korea. How would you motivate or give advice to young immigrants in this day and time that's facing similar challenges to pursue their dreams?
As a police officer, or pursue their dream of their desire?
Just all around, period. Yeah.
Even a little guidance.
Or this would be a good time to recruit.
Yes. So well, let me just tell you from a law enforcement perspective, right?
Okay.
You for the to the young generation folks, you have to ask yourself, do you enjoy helping other people out? Because they're not gonna take it as if you're helping them out. The people out there you'll be dealing with, you're always a bad guy. But in the end, you are helping them because you're protecting them, you're solving their problems. You're helping them, just not in the same way as if people were helping homeless individuals out in the middle of the freeway. It's a different type of help that you'll be providing. So you have to ask yourself, do you enjoy helping other people? And are you willing to take up on a challenge when, even regardless how much you're helping other people out and they just don't see that as an help, are you still willing to take up on the challenge and continue helping other people out? That's something that you have to ask yourself. So you have to have a heart in this profession, because otherwise, like I had told you, the job will consume you. And you're not going to be able to have a persistent career if the professions and expectation of this job is different than what you believe in. So, that's a word of advice that I like to ask. And it is okay, just if you initially thought that law enforcement is your career, just like what I have to do in my career path. If you just keep asking yourself and you explore the professions, and you know what, it may not be really for me. You have to be really honest yourself, because you can't make those transitions when you were young. You cannot make those transitions after you're having a family with 2 kids. It's going to get more difficult to switch. I mean, it's still possible, but it would be very, very challenging. But it is good to ask yourself a question early on: is this profession for me? And it is okay that you recognize it's not, and make the transition. It is totally fine. But you have to ask yourself, if you have a desire to be a police officer, are you willing to overcome those challenges that I've spoken with you about? Are you willing to still continue helping other people out when people see that you're the villain? That's one question. And secondly, if you ask yourself, hey, is this a profession that I want to do for the rest of my life? And if it's not, it is okay to be not. And then you can make decisions on what is best for you. Do not listen to other people telling you, hey, this job is not good for you. This job doesn't pay you well enough. Whatever the reason might be, do not listen to what other people are telling you. Mm-hmm. Ask yourself whether if this job is for you, or is it time for me to change the career path or not? And you have to really be honest with yourself, because we're talking about your life. And you remember what I told you, that life is, you're enjoying the life and do what you like is the most important thing. So you got to do yourself. So yeah, because I've seen people that want to do this profession, but they're doing it anyway because this is what feeding their families foods and food at the table. But it feels really bad seeing the people that you obviously know that they're just not willing to take extra stress and just going through this profession. And you can see it, if you work with those individuals, you can kind of see it that they don't enjoy what they do, always stressed out, always negative about what they have to do in their work, but they're still doing it because they have to feed their families and bring food to the table. Why would you not want to do that with a career that you enjoy the most? That's right. That's why you have to ask yourself those questions earlier the better. However, later, if you recognize this job is not for me, it is okay. It is okay. Yes. At least if you do this job and you recognize that change is necessary, you'll have time to explore those options. You have a time to explore the options, right? But it's definitely easier to recognize it early on than later.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know you mentioned the mental health a few times. How do you balance your personal life and the stress from your work?
It was hard. And quite frankly, how I told you that I sacrificed my families and I neglected my families for this job. And I did it because I really enjoyed the most. I really had a good time working here. I had too much fun at work to the point that I neglected my family. Okay. And in the end, this is work, right? It's not a place for you to just enjoy your life. It's a work. You have to produce something in return of salaries and money that you're getting paid for it. And sometimes you may not do a good job as what they expect you to do. And you've seen it, so you have to recognize it. So that's where the mental health that's when the mental health issues come into play. You were always proud of yourself and work ethics and work that you're producing, but you're not. But once you advance yourself into different positions, and there's other professions within the police department, you do a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. And if you're a human, you may be good at one thing, but you may not be so bad. You may not be so good at other type of work. And when you recognize that this special unit or whatever is not for me, you have to accept that you are not the police officer you wanted to, and you're not the perfect person that you thought you were. You were human. There will be always a challenge that will come to you. Yeah. And those moments came to me, right? And that's when I started to lose an interest. The mental health was causing a big time. And a lot of that is faulting yourself too. Why did I do this why did I sacrifice my life for work? And that's how the mental health issue came to me personally. And it really hit me hard for the last 2 years. And I'm still struggling, to be honest with you. I'm still struggling, but I'm doing it in incremental steps. And I'm seeing therapists and professionals to be able to cope with the type of stress, and I'm getting better at it. But there will be at times, and I think this happens to really anybody in any profession, really.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Yeah.
And I'm just now getting to the age. It took me a little bit later than most people, but my time was this last 2 years that mental health is really important. It's going to happen to anybody at unexpected time. And if you encounter that, there is a way to cope with it. And that's when you can use your mentor as well, too. People that you trust the most.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm struggling, and I'm still dealing with it. But at the same time, you have to, I know that there are people out there that support me as well, too.
Yeah.
So that's how I'm dealing with it. And then I think most of the several police officers are going through what I'm going through as well. So
That's
you're not
right.
alone. There'll be partners in your journey. And I want to just tell everybody that, hey, if something happens like that, it's not the end of the world.
That's
It
right.
happens to anybody. It's just your time to go through those obstacles. You just gotta have to find a way to go overcome those obstacles by having your trust people around you. And even just not so much of a trust, but you can definitely reach out to therapists, to counselors,
That's
and
right.
medical doctors for this help. And don't hesitate to reach out, because the mental health is a serious medical issue. Not only the physical, but the mental health is definitely a serious medical issue that sometimes it'll be very overwhelming.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm glad you opened up and shared that. There's been such different stigmas in different communities, different cultures. And I know with police, just from my experience, that was a no-no. That was something you really didn't open up and say, because, first of all, you get your gun and your badge taken away, from my understanding. And, for someone that's their dream. Oh, wow. Hey, will I ever get that back? Just a different thing. So I'm proud of you.
Yes.
Taking those steps. And I'm really proud of you for opening up and sharing that, because it's so important. We have several shows with psychologists, psychiatrists, mental health certificate specialists on this show. And, when we get to segments like this, it's important, and we encourage people, like you mentioned, you don't have to be a policeman to what some people call hit this wall or get to this point in life where you just can't go forward. I speak of myself. I was in the military. I didn't recognize it till decades later. I couldn't get out of my own head. I just replay thoughts over and over, and it started affecting my behavior, started affecting those around me. And once I got help, oh man, it was like a new day. It was a new day. I wasn't no longer walking around in the cloud and in darkness, throughout the day. So, hey, I'm so glad you shared that.
You're welcome. Because I didn't have a lot of guidance as far as dealing with the mental health issue when I was young, right?
Yeah.
It's not something that you really want to proud of. And a lot of people that go through those challenges, they rather want to keep it to themselves rather than talk about it.
Yeah.
But I say now, being in this position of a person that could provide any guidance for younger generations, I'm the reason I'm doing this, because I wish I had this advice when I was young.
That's right.
But now that I'm going through it,
Yeah,
I wanted to share it out to everybody. Hey, take that ego on your side. You're human, just like anybody else.
That's right.
You'll have those good times. You'll have a really good times where people are going to admire your work ethics and work you're producing, but that's not going to be an indefinite. There will be at times where you're going to hit the brick wall. There will be setbacks where at the unexpected time, and that's when the mental health issue is going to come to you real hard. But what I want to tell everybody is that it happens to almost anybody. Your time is up. You can deal with it. Build up your trust resources, and there will be people out there who will support you. So do not let that discourage you. Do not even think about harming yourself in any way because of this mental health. There's, like I said, you're only making the problem worse by doing that. But reaching out to people that you trust and get a resource that you need, you'll be able to overcome those obstacles and become a better person. And that's how I'm taking it as well too. And it gives me peace. And now I recognize, I actually learned from these challenges and my priorities as far as my life came to me. What is more important? Because like I told you in the past, that my work is all my life. But after going through those obstacles and everything, now you recognize that, hey, your most important priority is your family.
Yes.
So I'm really, in a way, I'm kind of thankful that I had that opportunity, because otherwise I would have definitely neglected my family throughout my career, which I would never wanted to do. But I probably would have done it throughout my career if it didn't happen to me.
So, it happens to a lot of people. I tell you what, Officer Kim, if we can talk in the future, but I would love for you to come back on and just share with us and the viewers your walk through this, because I know just this last couple of minutes have really helped me, in you talking about it, and it remind me of some things, and where God has brought me from, and the place that he's gotten me in. And I love that you encourage that. Hey, life is not over.
Mhm.
Right.
Take the positive steps to get things, to let that sunshine shine again, so to speak.
Mhm.
And the big word that you mentioned for me, I was in search of for years, is peace.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's peace. And I just want to encourage everyone that it is attainable. It is attainable. So you're welcome. We're going to close out, but I want you to stay on. Okay, stay on the platform. We're going to close out, but I just want to thank Officer Kim for coming on and sharing
Yes.
the journey, sharing the challenges, the victories, and we just really appreciate it.
Yo, my pleasure, and thank you for having me here. Like I said, this is kind of like a therapy session for me too. In a way that I was able to open myself out, and that me telling me that I'm doing somebody a favor by sharing my
Yes,
experience.
you are.
Big time.
And knowing that, it gives me comfort and peace. That's why I call it a little bit of therapy session for myself as well too. And I'm really thank you for having me here, and I'm really look forward to having another opportunity like this in the future.
Oh yeah,
you're welcome
appreciate
anytime.
that.
Yeah,
We appreciate that so much.
You're welcome anytime. As a matter of fact, like I said, stay on the platform. We'll talk and make some arrangements for that. So we appreciate you again for coming out. We just want to thank our viewers from wherever you're viewing at in the world. Thank you for your comments, your questions, and all those things. And come back next week. Lord willing, we'll be here. We appreciate you. And remember to get encouraged, get empowered, be equipped to live a more abundant life. Officer Kim, thank you again so much. Until next week, God bless.
Thank you for tuning in to Fire and Life Talk, where Jesus is Lord. If you would like more information, visit our website at